Yeah, thank you, Kamakshi. Good evening to you all. I think I would request Poonam ma'am to do a silent practice because she's a right person to do it. And then I'll be sharing about what's SharEd and then what's Tweakly, what we do exactly in that. So over to you, Poonam ma'am.
Thank you, Netra. As all of you know that we always start our sessions with the silence practice. So all of you, please sit in a comfortable position and put your feet firmly on the ground. Close your eyes. Those who do not feel comfortable closing their eyes may look down. सभी लोग अपनी आंखें बंद कर लें। यदि आप आंख बंद करने से कंफर्टेबल नहीं हैं तो अपनी नजरें नीचे कर लें। तीन चार लंबे गहरे सांस लेंगे। 8, 3, 4 deep breath. Bring your breath to normal breathing. Inhale and exhale. अपना ध्यान केवल नासिका के द्वार पर रखेंगे। Just feel your breath coming in or going out. अपनी सांसों से कोई छेड़छाड़ नहीं करें। सांस आ रही है, आ रही है, जा रही है, जा रही है। केवल जान।
पुराना सामान लाके उसको ठीक करके कबाड़ी है तेरी हमारे यहाँ ये था जी बट वही है ना तो रीयूज रिसाइकल का लाके पे
Kindly mute the mic.
you know the accounts for to
आती जाती सांसों को केवल जाने। सांस दाई नासिका से आ रही है या बाई नासिका से आ रही है, केवल जान। चूज करें कि आपके पैरों से जो धरती पर रखे हुए हैं, एक अभूतपूर्व ऊर्जा आपके शरीर में संचरित हो रही है और आपको स्फूर्ति प्रदान कर रही है। Imagine that from your feet, which are firmly placed on the ground, the tremendous energy from the Mother Earth is coming into your body and giving you lots of energy and alert. We feel grateful to the Mother Earth for everything which we have got, and with this feeling of gratitude and thankfulness, please open your eyes. Let me feel comfortable. Let's be ready for our session. इस gratitude की feeling के साथ हम जब सहज महसूस तो अपनी आंखें खोल सकते हैं और इस सेशन को अटेंड करने के लिए तैयार हो सकते हैं। Thank you. Over to Netra.
Thank you, Poonam ma'am. You all can just type in your feelings, how you're feeling right now after the wonderful meditation, guided meditation. You all can just put your feelings, how you're feeling about in the chat box. तो मैं थोड़ा सा बताना चाहूंगी कि हम आज यहाँ क्यों है, ये कौन सा इवेंट है, और कि ये क्रिएटनेट का एक इनिशिएटिव है जो शेयरिड करके। तो उससे पहले मैं एक बात कहना चाहूंगी कि आई एम वेरी प्राउड एंड हैप्पी टुडे टू से दैट, टू share with you all that we are growing. When I say we are growing, it means our community is growing very fast. और ये मैं कह सक रही हूँ क्योंकि ये क्रिएटनेट के इनिशिएटिव के वजह से हो पा रहा है। ये जो इनिशिएटिव है वीकली शेयरिड, जो भी आज यहाँ पार्टिसिपेंट्स है, अगर आप हमारे व्हाट्सएप के ग्रुप के मेंबर है तो आपने नाम देखा होगा कि व्हाट्सएप का नाम है वीकली शेयरिड। तो ये जैसे कि हमारे शेयरिड का ट्विंस मैं बोल सकती हूँ। आज है शेयरिड इवेंट और हम यहाँ थर्सडे, वीकली शेयरिड में हर थर्सडे मिलते हैं। ये ग्रुप ऑफ एजुकेटर्स है जो हर थर्सडे मिलता है, और उसमें से 2 थर्सडे हम शेयरिड का इवेंट्स करते हैं और 2 थर्सडे के दिन हम ट्वीकली का सेशंस करते हैं। And SharEd is all about getting innovative ideas, various ideas and practices on education. यहाँ एक पैनलिस्ट आते हैं, उनके इनोवेटिव आइडियाज एंड प्रैक्टिसेस ऑन एजुकेशन, उनका एक्सपीरियंस लेके और हमारे साथ शेयर करते हैं। और इसके बाद होता है ओपन हाउस और लास्ट में रहता है क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन। जो टॉपिक है उसके बारे में जो पैनलिस्ट ने शेयर किया है उनके एक्सपीरियंस के बारे में कुछ क्वेश्चन है तो पार्टिसिपेंट्स क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं एट द एंड ऑफ द इवेंट। एंड ऐसे ही सेम आई कैन से इट इज अ इवेंट बट इट्स अ प्लेटफॉर्म, वीकली प्लेटफॉर्म, जहाँ एजुकेटर्स मिलते हैं 2 थर्सडे के दिन। It's a very free space for all the educators and non-hierarchical. हम यहाँ जुड़ते हैं, एक दूसरे को मिलते हैं, we learn from each other and we share with each other. और हम डिस्कस करते हैं अपने चैलेंजेस। एक टॉपिक अगर एक को कुछ डिफिकल्टी हो रही है तो हम डिस्कस करते हैं और नया नॉलेज लेके फिर सेशन के बाद लेके जाते हैं और वो नया नॉलेज और सबके साथ बांटते हैं, दूसरे एजुकेटर के साथ। सो इट्स लाइक अ सर्कल, इट्स अ वीकली सर्कल where we have 2 events of SharEd and 2 sessions of Tweakly. So it's all about educators and we learn here together, we share here and we take our learnings outside the circle and we share it with other educators also. So आज हमारे साथ एक बहुत ही डायनामिक पर्सनालिटी है जिनका नाम है लीला जी। तो लीला जी के बारे में पूनम मैम आपको थोड़ी सी इंट्रोडक्शन करेंगे अभी उनके बारे में। तो ओवर टू पूनम मैम।
Thank you, Netra, for sharing about CreateNet. I really don't know from where to start, you know. Leela started writing since the age of 14 years. 14 साल की उम्र से इन्होंने लिखना शुरू किया, जिससे ये पता चलता है कि कितनी संवेदनशील है, इनको अपने एनवायरनमेंट से कितना लगाव रहा शुरू से। और साथ ही साथ अगर मैं गिनना शुरू करूं, आई विल नॉट स्टार्ट काउंटिंग बिकॉज इट्स इन्यूमरेबल। शी इज अ वेस्टर्न क्लासिकल piano expert. She has studied English and she is an environmentalist. She is a children's author. And above all, today, as we are the teachers community here, most of the teachers, she is a teacher in everything par excellence. She stayed at tea plantations for a long time, and when she went with her family to Pune, there, uh, when she saw the school, she was visiting the schools, and when she saw the kind of education being given, she really wanted the children to get out of the classrooms and have some experiential learning to know about their environment, not just learning 3 hours. और जब ऐसा इन्होंने देखा तो इन्होंने स्कूल्स के प्रिंसिपल्स के साथ बात करी और उनसे जो भी विचार विमर्श किया, तो ये निकल के आया कि ये बच्चों के लिए कुछ कैंपिंग करें, जिससे उनको अपने स्कूल और घर की चार दीवारी के बाहर की कुछ नॉलेज हो, जो एनवायरनमेंट है उसके बारे में पता चले। और जब मैं लीला जी से बात कर रही थी तो उन्होंने बोला कि वो स्कूल के बच्चों के लिए कैंप्स ऑर्गेनाइज करते थे और वो बच्चे इनके घर में रहते थे और सुबह 6 बजे से लेकर शाम के 6 बजे तक पूरा एक प्रोग्राम होता था जिसमें बच्चे अपने आसपास के वातावरण से जुड़ते थे और बहुत सी ऐसी बातें पता चलती थी जो खाली क्लासरूम में किताबें पढ़कर नहीं पता चल सकती। As she has been closely associated with the environment, some of the books which she has written is Flute in the Forest, Red Kite Adventure. Leela, I would really like to know, because I was reading that once you had gone for a talk in some school, you had taught them to make kites. So, what is this kite adventure for you? It's fascinating. And then another book is Anayashola Chronicle. And this Anayashola is a Tamilian word, and Leela has been in Tamil Nadu for 9 years, and she is very well versed with the century, the parks. So, not taking much of your time, I'll hand over to Leela, because all our audience must be getting excited to know what all you have to tell us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, there's a phone going, but I'll just switch it off now. I hope it's going to go off. Okay. Sorry. Namaste, everyone. I'm really happy and very proud and happy to be here. It's an honor for me to talk to teachers, especially on this occasion, because I have long since retired and I'm not really actively involved with environment sessions per se in schools. If there's anybody here who doesn't feel comfortable in English, just let me know through one of your organizers, and they might translate for me, because I'm not very good with Hindi. My Hindi is really bad. So Kamakshi, maybe you can do that. So anyway, so let me start by saying that I think you wanted me to read from the book first.
Yes.
So I will start with that, because it will give the teachers and everybody an idea as to where my environment education actually began. So when I was 14, I had this idea in my head, but I was still very a novice in the jungle. I didn't know much about it. I had to go through 50 years of my life to get to the stage where I had time to write this letter, this book. And now, after experience in the forest, I can say with confidence that I can write in comfort. And I wanted very much to explain the animal and human meetings in the forest, and how for how much it can be, how positive it can be compared to what people are always thinking, that, oh, animals are bad, they do this, they do that, they kill us, they do so and so and such and such. But actually, We can't do without them. So I wanted to give this impression when I was teaching all through those years, and even through the camps that I ran. But now, in my story, I wanted to put it across to the children who read the book. So this part is about this girl who lives in the forest, and she has already met this animal. He's a wild elephant, and he's actually very bad tempered, and everyone is scared of him because he's moody, and because he's moody for a reason. Nobody understands that. Like you have people who are moody, you have animals who are also moody and who have temper and who have problems. But they can't speak, they can't explain. So this is how they do it. And this is how I'll read it to you. So she was in the bus with a whole lot of passengers, and suddenly the driver stopped because he was petrified. There was an animal right in the middle of the road. Terrified, he tried to frighten away the elephant. He revved his engine and hooted his horn, making Rangappa, the elephant, furious. The elephant mock charged once, then he backed off, his ears flapping in fury, his front feet and trunk stirring up the mud on the roadside. The driver revved up some more and hooted again. Rangappa trumpeted like the truly furious elephant he was. Suddenly, they heard the most terrifying sound from the elephant's throat, a deep, menacing, stupefying rumble that kept on and on and on. Atiya, she's the heroine of the story, thought fast. She got up quickly and walked up to the driver. Shh, she said to him, her finger on her lips. Don't upset him, please. Just switch your engine off and don't scare him anymore. Then turning to the passengers on the bus, she said, as calmly as she could, please be silent. Let the animal go in peace. We must remain silent. By now, most of the passengers had recognized her. She was the forest ranger's daughter. Oh, this is Ram Sardare's daughter, one young man said quietly. She knows about such things. We should listen to her. Quickly, the driver switched off his engine and pulled up the handbrake. Atiya breathed a sigh of relief. No one said a word. They trusted her. All of them had their eyes on Rangappa, who was still rumbling angrily. His trunk waved around and he was lashing at whatever he saw. He pulled off the branches and leaves and he was throwing it at the bus, growling in his throat. The passengers sat terrified. Gradually, very gradually, the enraged animal calmed down. The rumble stopped, and then, as quickly as he had appeared, he turned on his heels. In as dignified a manner as possible, he walked away from the bus. The driver gave him 10 minutes more to find his way off the road. Then he started his engine and drove up the hill. Looking down on their left, everybody saw Rangappa had made a quiet, peaceful exit, a collective sigh of relief, a few low chuckles, and the group sat back to enjoy the rest of the ride. That was it. I won't read more. I can read a lot more, but I will not do that now. No time. So this was how I started, and the book was so popular that Ruskin Bond actually wrote and said, I love the story. It's a very nice story, and everybody will like the music in the book. And so that's how it began. That's how my writing career officially began. Do you want me to carry on, or you want to ask any questions?
Please do.
Okay. So from there, let me just go back a little bit and tell you in more detail. When I was teaching in school, I was teaching music and mime and dance, and all my songs and all the dances and whatever I did was always about nature. And when I was talking about nature, I realized that the children didn't know much because they didn't experience it enough. So I thought, I have to do something about this. So I talked to my husband and I said, let us start these camps. We'll have these children, 30 of them coming at a time. Let them come and stay with us. We'll feed them with the farm food that he was growing. all organic. We'll feed them with this and we'll talk from morning to night about everything to do with the environment. And what better place than an outside classroom? Now, that's where I come to the subject of today's session, environment education in the field. And so, I would say that if you want to teach young children about environment education, if you want to teach them about the environment, take them out. Don't put them in the classroom. They've got enough in the class as it is. They have writing and reading exams and tests to do. But sometimes it's so nice to be outside. You have the sun, sometimes you have rain, sometimes if you're in a colder place, you will have mist, and it'll be, maybe the mud will be wet. You will see other things when you come into all these different kinds of environments. Along with that, the children experience so much. They can experience so many things in the outdoors which you cannot teach in a classroom. They don't need exercise books. They don't need pens and pencils. They don't need their bag. They just need a water bottle. That's all. And a cap if it is sunny. Take them out. And as soon as you put them out, you start with your environment education. I had a list of things that we had to do. It was like a schedule from morning to night. The first day when they got up, we talked about the rules on camp so that they would be safe. No going in tall grass, no doing this, no doing that. Be careful because you want to have a good time. And then after that, it was one session after another. When they were on the farm, we harvested, we sowed seeds, we weeded, we ate what we had done. We ate the onions, we selected the garlic, we had the dal and the peanuts and the oil from the peanuts. We ate all these things and they understood because they saw those same plants growing. When you are in the field, you can teach hands-on. Let the children put their hands in the soil. No harm. Let them get muddy. So what? It's good. It's very good for them because it teaches them that there is nothing wrong with our soil. It doesn't matter if there's worms there and little kidas and things like that. So what? It's part of nature. And that's how we started with this. Eventually, it became bird watching live. Kamakshi has some pictures which I think now and then you can put on screen as I'm teaching, as I'm going along, so that it becomes a little bit more lively. They don't have to see my face. You can show them pictures. Oh, this is the book. This is what I was reading to them. These are the letters and something, all these kind of things. And on the right is the pamphlet that we showed them when they joined camp. There are other photographs which are actual action photographs. So this was one. Now here, there was a question about, later on there'll be a question about how you can involve children in environment awareness. Here's a potter session. Okay, Kamakshi, just stop it for a minute at this point. So what I did was, I showed the children that you can make dolls and things with paper, old paper. So those puppets I made myself. I put them together and then we had role plays which the children actually invented. I just gave them the bare outline. That means characters. There were 5 children in each group, and I would say one is a politician, one is a teacher, one is the village head, one is a gunda, and one is a little girl. And the little girl seems to know the most because she's experienced so much about nature. But the politician and the businessman want to make lots of money, and they're sitting on the edge of the river and they're thinking, we'll make a big factory here. How will we do that? And the little girl says, but if you do that, the river will get spoiled, the river will get dirty, and our surroundings will get full of plastics and papers and all this. So how do we solve these? And all these things were done either with puppets, they did it, or they did actual role plays. Even that, there's a picture of that later on, perhaps you can see. We also did things like everything which had to do with nature. So there was nature games, nature activities like the pottery, which you just saw. This was a village potter. We didn't call anybody who was like a fancy potter or anything. No, we called the village potter. He showed them how the mud was mixed. And then he got the children to mold each and every little pot. And on the third day in the night, my husband would put all these dried pots into a special little kiln in the farm, and we cooked them the whole night, slowly, slowly, slowly. And by the morning, they were ready. And then on the last day, each of them had a number on that pot. So they took those pots home with their own number and said, Mama, see, I made this. This was my pot. And I can tell you, honestly, I have campers who are now 40, 35, approaching 40 plus. And those children, those people, they were children then, those pots are still in their house. They keep them there as a memento, as a souvenir of the time on camp, because they enjoyed their time 4 days so much. Why did they enjoy it so much? Because it was very simple. They were outdoors from morning to night. They were busy all the time. They were never bored for 1 minute. You talked about drugs. I have a serious message for people who are dealing with children who are on drugs. Keep those children busy. Show them the values of your nature around you. Show them what they can be caring for. Show them how important it is that we look after these things. If you're talking about a drug that's bhang or marijuana, or I don't even know the names of these awful things, but they all have come originally from nature. So think about that. Why have we twisted it around and made it bad when we could actually be using it for good, like medicines, which marijuana is used for when people have bad injuries or something, or they have terrible pain? These things are used, but in quantities like that, not as a drug to get a nasha from and then think about how, okay, I can have that, that's it, and forget about my responsibilities. So environment education is so important. Now, how do I start? If I was a teacher and I had to give motivation to my teachers, I would start with 4 questions. Why do you want to teach? Why do you want to teach environment education? If your answer is because I think there's a need for it, because I think I have the passion for it, because I think I know a lot more than the children and I want to teach them this, then yes, you're in the right job. If you don't feel that passion, please don't do it, because your passion, your interest, your Josh will translate to the children in half a second. They will get it straight away. This teacher, she's not interested. But that teacher, that little one, who's always got her head in the clouds, who's dreaming all the time, that teacher, she's good because, whatever she says, so interesting. She makes it so interesting. How does she make it interesting? A, she takes them out. 2, she tells them stories along the way. I did this, I experienced that. This is how it is. Or that happened in the forest, or this happened there in the park. Do you know this thing? Do you know something called for instance, when I was dealing with these children, young ones, they would find a little insect, because we had insect hunts. So we would have a special session. Chalo, let's see who can find any insect they like. Okay. But no, don't touch it. Just look at it and point it out and tell me what it is. So I would go and say, oh, that one. This is a bee that produces honey. Does it bite? They would ask. No, it doesn't bite, but it does something else, which hurts. What is that? And they would start thinking, what can it be? If it's not a bite, is it fangs? Is it this or that? Oh, it's a sting from the back. How strange. And then we would talk about so many other insects which also had stings. Centipedes, scorpions, which had it in the tail. They don't have it in their face or on their bites. No. So strange things like that. And then I would start talking about something which in Maharashtra they call Mriga Chakira. It's this little red velvet mite, tiny little thing. It's barely like 1 centimeter max. It feels like velvet. It's red in color. And as children, we used to collect it and put it in matchboxes. Very, very popular activity we used to do as children. So we used to collect those. Now people say, oh, what does it do? Now tell me, an insect which is so small, how does it know that it can only come out on that one day in the year, that first day of rain, the first day when it rains? That's the day these Mrigata Kiras come out. Only on that day. And then they're looking for mates, they're looking for a wife, they're looking for a husband, and they find each other, they will mate, and they will have their little babies, eggs, and they'll go underground and disappear till the next year. These are the stories which make children say, wow, that's an interesting story. That's interesting. And you don't have to have them very big. You can start at 6 years of age, 7 years of age. It doesn't have to be bigger than that. And keep going. Every year you add some more ages. Every year you add some more activities. So we had so many activities which I actually listed to you just a little while ago, but I'll just talk about it again. We had resource people who came for every camp. One of those resource people was an insect expert. He had an anthropology museum, and he would talk about the insects that he had, and the moths and the butterflies and so many different kinds of spiders and the grasshoppers and all of these. We had different resource people. So there was one who came on, there were research scientists, there were mountaineers, there were farmers, there were people who were very, very good in the forest and they knew all about wild animals. So we would have a session where you could find out different footprints, and we used to call them pug marks. They're called pug marks. The different footprints of all these different animals. So the tiger, what kind of footprint does it have? The leopard, a little smaller. The wild dogs, the wild boar, the bear. So many different animals. So we would talk about those. How do you make it interesting in the forest? That's how you start. You talk about this, and then you say, an animal, where do you think a tiger would live? Would a tiger live in a house? No, obviously not. Does a panther live in your hut? No. Where does it live? So then you ask questions. And with the questions and along with the questions, the children are using their intelligence, they're using their sense of practice and practicalities, and they're finding out, can a tiger live in a place which is very crowded? No. Would it be living? It's a big animal, and it has stripes which are yellow and black. Now, would it live in a green space happily, or would it live in a more brown and drier, rocky kind of place? Obviously, it would live in a place like that because there it would feel camouflaged. And why do you need camouflage? So you can start talking about camouflage. So these kind of things we would talk with the children. And that's how we made environment education in the field so much more interesting. And from this, because they were young, they were interested in all this. When they were a little bit older, we took them out. We had 3-4 days out in the forest. We would take them there, explain these things in practical terms to them, take them for wildlife safaris, discuss in the evening what we saw, play games which had to do with that, and come back. I would invent these games, come back and discuss it again. One of the games we played, which was very interesting for the kids, was the different birds we have in India. Now, we all know about Salim Ali. He's written those famous books about birds, and now he's gone. But people have really caught on with birds now. They're photographing them. You can see them on Facebook. You can see them on Twitter, everywhere. Now, these birds they all have names. And all these birds are different. Some like small birds. Some children like the smaller ones. Some children like the bigger ones. Some children like the really big ones, the ones with the very, very broad wings. Some like the birds which are near the sea. They're water birds, river birds. Some live on the land and they have their eggs on the land. So in all of these cases, because the birds are so different, their behavior is different, their camouflage and their feathers are different, they eat different things. And because of this, it's like we are talking about a different species who's like us, very different. Like if you're from Tamil Nadu, you'll be different, you talk a different language, you'll have a different dress, you'll eat different. But if you're from Punjab or you're from Bengal, you'll be different. So because of all of these differences, you'll accept that birds also have these differences. And because they have these differences, they become more interesting. And you talk about that, their behavior, their habitat. And that's how environment education is built up. Now, from all this, why have I gone into such detail? It's because I strongly feel this, that when children, let me start with that. I have a very deep sense, deep responsibility to India. We all should have it. If we don't have it, we are not good teachers, because we want to explain this to our children. They must feel it too. India is a wonderful place. It's beautiful. It has everything possible, mountains and streams and snow and rivers, fabulous rivers. We have the sea on so many coasts. We have the forests, all of this. But who's caring for it? Somebody else? Why someone else? Why are we not caring for it? We could be doing it from the time we are 2 years old. We can be starting on it, and we don't, because the truth has to be told, and I'm very shameless about it. I'll say it openly. I think India is one of the filthiest countries in the world, because we just don't take the responsibility of our outdoors seriously. We don't. And why is that? Because we're not taught. We're just not taught. So why don't we get our children, you as teachers, I as a teacher, I started with them very young. My own children, when they were 1 and 2, I showed them things like plastic, papers, bits of wrapper, a sweet wrapper, a chocolate wrapper. Do you throw it out of the bus window? Do you throw it out of the car? Why? Why? It goes into the dirt. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't become soil for 100 years and more. Don't you think it's responsible for you to do it better? Teach your children this. It's such an important lesson. The minute they start caring for their cleanliness around the school, around the class, around their home, not just in the home, but outside the home, that's when you will have succeeded in making them understand what the value of India's environment is. It's a big lesson. It's a very big lesson. And if teachers can get this message across, keep your environment clean. Keep it clean at 2 years of age, 3 years of age, 4 years of age, onwards and upwards. By the time they're 10, they will know everything about how their environment should be kept clean. Then they will respect it. And they will respect the whole of the flora and the fauna that's in the forest, in every different habitat. They will understand. I'm talking very fast, I don't know, because I want to say so much, but I don't know whether the teachers have understood. It's all in English. Somebody wants to translate, you can please go ahead.
Is there anyone who is not able to understand? Please raise your hands. Afia, you may write down the message.
Yeah, you can write down the message and I can read it afterwards then. Then we can see some of those questions. But if you have understood so far, then that's a good sign for me, because then I can carry on with what I'm trying to say about, from one point to the other, because it's important from understanding that you have to keep the outdoors and keep your surroundings clean. Then you understand about keeping nature clean and keeping your environment way beyond you clean, you don't have to think global. You just have to think local. Think local first, and then slowly, as the class goes bigger and older, then you can think about more. But if you start your lesson, your teachers are taught this lesson from day one. You have your meetings, principals, please note. Take your teachers aside on the very first day. Tell them this from day one. This is a responsibility that cannot be overlooked. It must not be overlooked. It must be part of the unwritten syllabus. The teachers have to know. Once you know it and you understand it, you talk about it and you explain every time to the children through stories and this and that, and it becomes interesting and they will follow it through. So these are the crucial points that I had wanted to discuss. Just 1 second. Okay, as far as activities go, and as far as ideas for activities in school go, it's very important to have interesting activities for them to follow when you are in the outdoors. So it can't just be lectures and lessons all the time. It's got to be activities which they are participating in. And if they participate, then they're involved. So I don't know whether you have heard of the Center for Environment Education. It's based, the head office is in Ahmedabad. It was run by Vikram Sarabhai's who is the man who ran ISRO and started ISRO? Was that Vikram? I've forgotten. So his son is now running CEE, and that center has now multiplied. They have gone to a lot of different towns. In fact, when I was teaching all these children on my camps, I realized that the teachers didn't know. So I had various workshops and they came to us on camp just as teachers' workshop to teach them how to run environment camps for their kids. And so when they came, that's when CEE realized, oh, we can start a center in Pune. And then very soon there was a center in Pune, there is one in Puri, there's something in Delhi, there's another one in Bengal, and it has multiplied. So in all these centers, remember, Center for Environment Education has books, pamphlets, booklets, lots of photographs, lots of workshops, lots of seminars. Attend some of these, attend at least one or two, meet the people there, go and check them out and see for yourself. You'll get lots of ideas. You don't have to just follow their system. You expand and be creative and start your own. Think of your own area and start there. You don't have to do exactly what the way they say it. You can do it in a slightly different way. That's okay. Fine, so long as it molds the children into understanding what environment is. That's really all. So if you go to one of these places or you happen to be in one town where there is a center somewhere there, do go, do visit, check them out, and you'll see a lot of very interesting information that you can use. Principals, teachers, everybody should know about these places. So I also got my ideas from here, but before I heard about them in 87, so I started in 1990 with my husband for these camps, but in 87 itself, the seeds were in my head, and we would discuss, my husband and I discussed it a lot, and we said, we have to teach the children the right things. We can't teach them the wrong things. I think the best responsibility of a teacher is if they teach the truth, not rubbish. So when you are in class, you obviously have a responsibility to every child. And so we did not want to talk nonsense. And we said, whatever we talk to them, it must be the truth. And so I wrote off to people. Nobody responded. The WWF did not respond well enough. And there were so many other so-called nature organizations. They didn't give me the right kind of information I was looking for. So finally, just by luck, I saw an ad in the papers and it was from CEE. And then I got in touch with CE, and they were the ones who said, what information do you want? I said, tell me, give me some idea of how to run nature camps. They didn't have any booklet on it. They had no books on it. And in fact, 2 years later, once we started, they heard about our camps and they called me up and said, please come and join us because we're going to write a book on nature camps and we want you to participate. So I went there. I saw that's another thing the teachers should be doing. You go there, you follow this up, and you will see at once the places where mistakes are happening. And you know at once, this I will not do, that I will do, but this is wrong. That I will not do. I will not follow it. It's not safe or it's not correct or whatever. So you will make your own choices. And as teachers, that's your right. You can do that too. So please do take this bit of advice. It will really help you a lot. So once I'd got my basic ideas for games, then of course I went to town. I just decided, okay, I can do this and I can do that and I can invent this idea. And I really had a lot of fun doing all that because we had about a group of about something like 50 younger instructors, all taught by us, who were totally involved in what we were doing. And we sat together, we had brainstorming sessions, and we said, how could we do this? How could we do that? So that's another thing. As one gets older, it's a difficult lesson to imbibe, to understand. But as one gets older, you get set in your ways. The younger ones still are open-minded. And the younger ones very often have excellent ideas. So rope them in, get them together. Put your teachers together. Even the youngest teachers will have good ideas. Rope them in and say, okay, now what do we do with this? What can we do for that? Don't think that you're the only one who has all the ideas, even though you have 30, 40 years of teaching experience. Never think that, because we are learning all the time. As teachers, that's the first lesson we learn. You learn your whole life, and then you pass it on to children and to teachers. Enough said, I think.
You have missed out on kites.
Pardon? I
Missed
forgot
out
about the
on
kite.
kites.
Yes, I forgot about
Yes.
kite. Okay, the kite
Yes.
story is actually, it's part of the story. It's just the kite is not the wing kite. This was the little triangular and square thing that you make with paper and you fly with a string.
Yes.
So that's the kite I had written about. And when I had these sessions, I read from the book. I told them some of the story. It's a very exciting story about two children of two different faiths who are one is a rich boy. He's the son of an IT expert. And one is a rather poor little youngster who comes from a joint Muslim family. The other boy is Hindu. And his father doesn't like the Muslim grandfather. And he says, what is this thing? He doesn't know anything, all that. And of course, actually, the two boys were fascinated with each other because they looked identical. And how did they look identical? So obviously, this was the exciting thing for these kids. And they get to know each other. Then they go kite flying on the mountain, and the rich guy is kidnapped. And the poor guy thinks, it's because of me that he's got kidnapped. I should never have taken him to the mountains and all that. And then he takes it on as his responsibility, and he eventually saves this boy. He finds out. Now the red kite, has a very important part in that play. But if I tell you that the story, then it's lost. So it's better if you get the book. Yeah.
So how were you fascinated? How did kites fascinate you? Like,
Well, the kite fascinates me because actually I'm very interested in crafts. I like crafts a lot. And I do a lot of craft work also. I've done various things with, as you heard, with paper mache. I've made with paper mache. I have painted. I have done cross stitch. I've done oil paints also. What else? I've stitched. All these things I learned as a young one when I had so much time. And then it's all come in useful in later years, because somewhere or the other, these things do come in useful. That's another thing you can be teaching the children, crafts of different kinds from any materials that they bring from home. Let them bring what they would normally throw out, bits of pet bottles like this, a pet bottle like this. So collect that, collect a whole sack full. Maybe one teacher can say, okay, collect this, let's see what we can make. Put the children's heads together. Come on, let's work on something that we can do with this instead of throwing it into the garbage every time. What can we do with that? Okay, plastic. What could we do with this? All of these things will come in useful. So this is how. There was one year when I had a lot of time, and I collected a lot of these things like some beads and some strings and wool, old wool, and I put together a whole lot of different crafts for children to use on camp. And we even got them, the kids, to think together to make different things also on camp. So it's all a question of creativity, imagination and creativity, I guess. I guess.
Recycling, reuse,
Yeah,
reducing.
these,
All,
what we can do with waste materials is amazing. There's a lady in Pune who's collecting a whole lot of plastic and she's making fantastic bags with it. It's called Ray Charka. You can explain these. You look on the web, look on Instagram if you are a member of Instagram, and check out what people are doing today with waste materials. There's so much happening. You can find out from that. You can get your ideas from this.
or we have, yeah, Kamakshi, you were about to say
Ma'am,
something.
can you repeat the Pune-based organization?
It's called RE, capital RE, and then Charkha, CHARKHA. She's Pune based. She's an engineer by profession, and then she left that whole thing and started this, and it's doing fantastically well. She gives sessions and talks and all this to people all over, and she's doing well, very well. People are buying it also, all the materials that they do. Yes, exactly. Yeah. The C, Charkha, the C is capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to know?
Yeah, one more thing. I was reading, when I was reading about you,
Huh?
like it was there that some of your students, they got so, fascinated with the environment, and they were really, truly associated with the nature, that they have become environmentalists and have taken different professions in this field. So
Yes.
can you throw some light on this? Like what kind of profession? Because anyways, our children have to earn for their living and all. So what all jobs they can get into
Oh,
if they are truly
yeah.
associated with
Good
the
question. Very good question. Actually, when we started with these kids, they came once. The first time they came, some of them were only 7 and 8. So they were very young. We talked about environment and the outdoors and nature and the importance of clean water and clean soil and all that. So they got their first ideas from that. On the last day, I used to give them a pep talk. A pep talk. That means something to do with, yeah, you have, which part of the camps did you like the best? How did you like this? How did you like that? And what are you going to tell your parents when you go back? Some of them would say, oh, that we had such a great time. Some would say, I learned so much about birds. Someone else would say, I learned not to be frightened of snakes. Someone else would say, oh, the food was very nice here. And I saw my husband was called Camp Boss. So they would say, how is Camp Boss? How does he do all this, planting all this on his own and, all this kind of thing. So, and how did he get the water when there was no water? So there were stories to tell with this. And there were lessons that they learned. They learned from our mistakes. They learned from the challenges that we had been through. But at the same time, they also heard from me that they are young and they have the whole of life in front of them. But what's going to happen is at some point, they're going to have to decide what they want to do. What is their job going to do? And then many of them turned and said, we have, 2 cars. My father is an engineer. My father is a doctor. So I used to say, then, are you going to be a doctor too? Are you also wanting to be an engineer? And some of them would say, no, actually, it's so boring. I never see my father. He's always busy being a doctor. He's always busy in IT company, this and that. He's traveling, whatnot. And then I would say, well, one of the best jobs you can do today is something in environment, because the environment is vital. We can't do without it. We can't do without so many things in nature, so many things in the environment. What is it that you would like to do? Think about it. And then maybe you have a responsibility there. So that was the first time. The second time they came, if they came a second time, which was very many of them, some of them came 9 and 10 times to the camp over a period of 3, 4, 5 years. So these kids, by the time they had finished, then they became instructors with us, because we realized some of them had really potential. They went in for science. They studied environment science. Some of them got scholarships to go abroad. When they went abroad, they studied. They studied things like water pollution. How do you do research in this? Microbiology. What about the animal life? What about life in the forest? How does one care for that? So wildlife, mammal care, veterinary care, photography. These were the jobs that they have taken up. And now they're all over the world. And they're doing fantastically well. There are activists, there are lawyers, all of them are doing environment jobs. Environmental lawyers, environment activists, environment carers. One second, his phone is ringing. 1 second.
आप लोगों को जो भी अभी तक समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है, आप लोग चैट पे और लिख सकते हैं कहाँ पे आप लोगों को दिक्कत हो रही है, और आप लोगों की जो भी मन में सवाल आ रहा है आप लोग चैट के द्वारा आप लोग शेयर कर सकते हैं। लीला मैम कंटिन्यू करेंगे, और जो भी आप लोग चैट पे शेयर करेंगे क्वेश्चंस, लीला मैम विल एड्रेस दैट।
Yeah, I can answer your question. Sorry about that. I had to take.
No,
I was
ma'am.
worried because I'm the only one at home, so I would have to take the call.
No problem.
Ask your questions. There was one which was an interesting one, which was something that the kids can do in school. Let me just find it on here. How can we translate environment awareness into actionable initiatives within school communities? That was a very good question. So my answer to that would be things that projects which the principals and the teachers can do with their own particular class. So you have a competition which is like the cleanliness competition. You give prizes for it. Make sure that they get a badge. And badges don't cost that much. So you have badges like 25, 30, 40, 50 badges, and you give only 3 or 4 per year. That's it. So it will last for so long. And these badges should be nice. They should have some sort of motivation thing like, I keep my classroom clean. I keep my school clean. I'm caring for so-and-so. I don't use plastic. I save on so-and-so or such and such, These are the things that children can do as projects in the class, outside the class. And when they're older, they can be competing class against class. So then you can even make it more exciting for them. And you give a cup to the final years children, 9th and 10th standards, give them a cup so that they understand, oh, this is really something we can be working for. Now that Modi is Prime Minister, he's been talking about Swachh Bharat for how many years? What are we doing about it? We are seeing him on the pictures, but what is everybody doing about it? This is something that we can be talking to the children about. and it's their responsibility along with the teachers. Then there was another question. In fact, connected with this cleanliness thing, there's a story that's coming out of Japan, which I was so fascinated by. And it's a very famous incident that happened. The Japanese are mad about football. They love football. So when the stadium fills up with their audience, the people who come there, they pay quite a lot to see a football match. This was an international football match. So the stadium was packed with parents and children, everybody totally involved in the game, and thousands of people were there. And anyway, the match was fantastic, and then they went. And when they went, the game was over. The people who had come from abroad, they were surprised to see that not a single Japanese family person, not a single one left the stadium. They each of them had a bag or plastic bag, collected every single piece of litter which was around them, and they did not leave the stadium till the whole stadium was spotlessly clean. Just think about it. Thousands of people there, and they didn't have, nobody had to come in and sweep after them. Think about it. It's quite something. So that's
There's a question.
it's a very, very motivating lesson. And I was fascinated with the story, and I was thinking this could be used as a model in every school in India. Why can't it be done? Why can't it be done? It can easily be done. Just have to tell the children about it and make sure they do
What
it.
happens, what I have observed as a principal,
Huh.
that as a school principal, we ensure, we teach children, we celebrate Environment Day and otherwise also, and it's okay, they do follow, they obey. But then once they are out of the school, that habit is not inculcated. And I think the question which Jasmeet has given, it's related to this. How can schools collaborate with local communities to create eco-friendly initiatives
Yeah.
that benefit both the environment and educational outcomes?
Yeah. So this was another very good question, which I was quite fascinated with also. The children who used to come to us on camp, for instance, they learned very quickly within 1 or 2 days that they couldn't litter anything, and the whole farm was always looking very clean, and they wondered, how is it possible to keep clean? I said, you people are doing it. It's because everyone is involved. The place is always clean, and we do it too. You learned it now. So then about 6 months later, I met one of the parents in the market somewhere. And she said, oh, my daughter had such a good time at your camp. She learned so much. She learned this and that. I said, really? So are you following it through? I asked the mother, are you following it also? She said, oh, it's so difficult. The children have so much study to do. They have exams, they have tests. How can I follow? And then 3 days later, I met the same daughter that she was talking about. And she said, oh, my mother says, when I want to do it, my mother says, oh, stop it, go and study. This is what's happening. So we have to start. There's no other way. We have to start from scratch from the age of 2. This generation, we can do it. If we start with them, it's a huge responsibility. Imagine, but all our children are in school now. Every single child wants to be in school. They want to learn. They want to improve their life. And the parents are ambitious for the children. They want them to do it too. They want them to do well. So this is an important lesson that should be just followed through. It's like religion. Make it part of their religion, and they can follow it through.
What about the parents? How to deal with them?
How do you deal with them? Explain that this is what we're talking. Yeah, it's a very difficult question because parents have this false notion that, we are different classes. We have the 4 different castes in India, and that lowest caste it's like crazy. It's so false, because it's not their job to clean up behind us. It is our job to clean up behind us. And that you have to tell to parents. You have to just explain, make them feel ashamed. That's it. I do that. I'm bindas that way. Yeah. You have to be, as teachers, you also have to be bold and blunt. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Then those people are lost. Can't help it. Yes, it should be. Yeah, Netra says, I think experiential learning environment should be part of the school curriculum. It's true, but I think this is another thing we could be doing in all the schools. I suggested this last time when I was talking to you, that at the age of 2, when children are in the nursery, they are, oh gosh, my phone is, just 1 second, this thing is going off. I haven't charged my battery. Oh God.
Yeah.
आप लोगों
A question from, I
एक
can
आप
see the
सवाल
question.
शेयर कर सकते हैं.
Yeah, so I was saying that,
Your voice is breaking, Kamakshi.
say Kamakshi.
No,
We have a question.
no. I already shared a question in chat. I'm requesting everyone to share questions if they have.
Yeah, I can see two questions from Abhishek Das, who was once our panelist also. Yes, he's been doing a lot for children. Should I read it for you, Leela, or you
Yes,
will
please
see?
do, because I can't see it here. I don't know why it's not showing up here.
Okay. So, Abhishek, hello, Abhishek. Welcome to SharEd, and really lovely to see you here. One is, in what ways can schools serve as hubs for dialogue and collaboration between students, educators, parents, policymakers, and community leaders to address environmental issues holistically, combining individual and systemic perspectives? And another thing which he has written, one school doesn't coordinate ever with even with another school.
Very good. That's an excellent point. It's true. Unfortunately, I think competition in India has gone wonky, has gone really the wrong way around. Instead of coordinating and cooperating with each other and learning from it, we are undoing the learning that we have taught the children by doing this. And so the what we need to do instead is have competitions with each other's schools and start them young. And tell them you have prizes, tell them these things, and say that we are not the kind of competition. It's not that kind of competition to show that you are better than me or I'm better than your school, that kind of thing. What we are trying to do is to educate the children and to find out what is the progress, what progress they're making. That's what we want to encourage the children to do better. That's all. Nothing to do with the schools per se. So it's a crucial thing, but I've seen the same thing happen. But at the same time, I noticed that the what do they call these schools? These IB schools, they are competing with each other, but they're also doing a lot of very good, very interesting work. They're improving their standard of education all the time, and they are in competition with each other. They have competitions for drama and creative crafts and all that kind of thing, and it's working. It has. I just attended one as a judge. It was very good. There were about 6 schools that participated. Yeah. I think you just have to keep going at it and pushing the idea with everybody. Meeting other principals might help. Talking to other principals and teachers to have workshops on this issue, that might help. Ask the CEE; they might be able to help you to do something like this. You know, sometimes they actually give small funds, or they send somebody to help with funds like this.
That's great. One of, I think, our principals has written, that today she had called upon the community members, SD people from SDM office, and some NGOs who are working in her area regarding the cleanliness. So this is some kind of an initiative taken up by the principal in which she is collaborating with the members of the community.
Excellent.
Excellent. Congratulations,
Yeah.
Anjali. Wish that you are able to inspire others also.
Yeah, this is exactly it. If we can somehow motivate other principals to think beyond the competitiveness, but to think more on being competitive only to encourage children to participate more and to collectively, basically collectively unified as a group, work towards improvements in the country. That's how it works. It's like any demonstration. You saw the demonstration on TV, I'm sure, a little while ago with Gaza, the people for Palestine and the people for Israel. You saw the number of people for Palestine. The whole community, the whole road was full of people supporting Palestine against Israel. What did it show? It showed that no matter what community they were in, they were all supporting this one point, this one issue. And the same thing can be done for every issue that we are dealing with now. Pollution in the rivers, we are not sorting it out because corporators, politicians, they're making it, builders, they're polluting it left, right, and center, and nothing is happening. And because we're in a minority so far, but the minute we are in a big group and the children are in a big large group, people will be listening because they have to. If the whole community gets together, it's going to happen. It's just education.
We have, people from all walks of life. Here we have Anup working at Holmati Nature Foundation. He's writing, we have an information center at Hanor, uh, a small town for Chamarajnagar district, Karnataka, which aims to provide awareness on wildlife conservation to rural children and other stakeholders. So his question was, hunting is one of the main threat in this landscape, and I would like to know how to go about this issue to help children understand why hunting is bad, as it is a sensitive issue.
Difficult question, because in some areas we have major poaching problems, and the closer we are to our borders, there are outside people, mafia, who are involved in the poaching problems, and then it becomes a very complicated issue because there's a lot of money involved in there. Cash goes into the lakhs, and then how do you counter that? It's very difficult when people are poor and people don't have enough finances. How do you counter this and say it's wrong to kill a tiger because we need tigers? And this is all very fancy for them. They're thinking of at least if I get 3 lakhs in my pocket, I can survive with my family for the next 3 years. So it's a very difficult issue. But if you start again small, and from the time that they're young, and you talk about issues like buying equipment, buying things, objects of something that looks pretty in the house on a shelf. It can be something which is made out of a shell or oyster shells. Well, they've killed the oysters to get that shell, and then it becomes very difficult to say, don't buy this. But they don't know. The people who are buying have no clue that that oyster has been killed, and those fish and those shells have been killed to get those pretty shells, and then decorate it and then sell it in Goa or wherever along the beaches. The same thing with turtles. The turtle eggs are selling for I don't know what kind of price. But in some areas, they're conserving them. They're not allowing people to go in and collect these eggs because they want the turtles to multiply, the tortoises. So it's all a question of awareness, and so much of it depends on awareness at school level, not beyond. Once you're in school, that's the time children are really learning. They're like sponges. So it's a good thing that we teach all these things when they're young, and then they become little environmentalists by the time they're 15. So poaching is definitely a big issue. It's very tough. And hunting things like even birds, if children are living close to a village area where there's a sanctuary close by, it's a pretty common occurrence, The temptation is too strong. You can just go in just a few feet, a few 100 yards in, shoot a couple of birds, and you've got your you've got your meat supply for dinner for tonight. That kind of thing. It's not easy. So awareness
I think
is
we
what
need
will
to
eventually work.
generate some kind of an empathy which is really lacking.
Yes.
Killing in the birds, killing a bird or any animal, like that empathy is lacking in our
It is.
children.
Yeah.
So how to generate that, like right when they are very young,
Yeah, you have to start young, explain that it can hurt, and how would you like to have one leg cut off? And you have a wing, you have a bird that is shot. It's not dead, but it's injured. It can't survive. It's going to get injured by somebody else, or another big bird will get at it, or a fox will chew it up and eat it up. How would you like if one of your legs or one of your hands is chopped off? It's it's a that's the way to explain to a child that it can be. When you make it personal, then it becomes an issue which is very close to the heart, and they can understand it better. Sometimes that works.
Yeah, making it personal. Yeah, that
Yeah.
yeah. Anup is saying yes, wild meat is easy protein as they are close to forest fringes. We are doing our best to change their perception, but will take a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we wish you all the luck, Anup. You are doing
Yeah,
a great
really.
job.
It all depends on teaching and talking and awareness, and taking them out into the field and showing them the beauty of nature itself, which will produce empathy in a child. And then it becomes an easier issue. Can you share some examples of how you integrated music and performing? Um, Yeah, okay. That was actually quite easy for me because I'm as a musician, it's not tough to do. Again, and the creativity because of crafts, it was easy for me. So I asked them to collect a whole lot of um, um eh, different things which they would have thrown into the rubbish dump. Things like rolls, toilet rolls with just the paper's all gone, but just the cardboard rolls, and bits of wood, um, chains, elastic bands, cardboards. And then we made instruments out of these. We made actual rhythm instruments from all this. And that was such a wonderful idea because the teachers had no clue that you could actually make rhythm instruments out of nothing, out of whatever was left over. So bits of tin, boxes, old buckets, and you can put together a complete band of rhythm musicians, and you can have a whole music system on that alone. And that itself will teach children both the things, both music, rhythm, as well as using old materials to make a craft and music. So here it says, what inspired you to fall in love with the environment in very young age at 14 and be an author? Well, I don't think it was I don't know whether it was inspired at that time. I won some articles. I wrote a story or two in the Statesman in Delhi. I was a kid a young teenager in Delhi at the time. And I wrote for Statesman for a competition, and I won. And then there was an essay competition, and I won that first prize. And the governor gave me a prize. He was about 4 foot nothing, and I was already 5 and something. So it was a very odd picture because I was towering over him and he was small. So, but I still loved that picture because it was, as it happens, it was an essay on the subject why I love animals, and I won first prize for it. So I guess it was something probably inborn, maybe partly education with my parents. We went out every time there was a holiday. My father would pack us into the car, and we would go for trips here and there, into the mountains or into the forests, and then we would talk about things. We would have picnics in the outdoors. We would see the fish, and we would go fishing, learn about that. We did a lot of things like that. My life was really the best and the finest, and I think happiest. I was happiest in the outdoors. So perhaps it was just something that I grew up with. So when it was time for me to get married, my mother actually asked me, because I had an arranged marriage. She actually asked me, "What kind of husband would you like to marry?" And I said, "Well." It didn't take me more than 2 seconds to answer. And I said, well, somebody who likes nature and someone who likes the outdoors. And then they found my husband for me, and he was an agriculturalist. He'd studied agriculture, and he loved the tea estates. And I went out to live in this wonderful wilderness, really out like 12 kilometers from the nearest house, just wild animals around us. And just where you see my window here, you can see it in the picture there. There were elephants touching the windscreen, the screen, and we were inside the house. They didn't know because we had a curtain there. They didn't know. We trekked, we camped, we did all those mad things when we were young. Yeah.
I think Netra asked again one question, saying that can you please share your experience as an educator when you were working in school with children and teaching them about environment and surroundings?
Yeah, that's a good question for all of you, because you're all principals and teachers. So I was a music teacher when I was teaching in all these 3 schools that I taught, all part-time. And so I used to play the piano. The songs I chose were always about nature. And when I played, I would ask them to write down the words of the song, and then I would teach them the song. And then I found out pretty soon that their faces were very blank. And I would say, don't you know what a goldfish is? Don't you know what this is or that is in the outdoors? And they would say, no, miss, my mommy doesn't take me out. My parents don't take me out. They don't go. I said, what do you mean? On Sunday? Don't you go for a picnic somewhere? No, they're so busy. They have this to do. They have that to do. And they give us a TV to watch, or they give us some video games to watch and that kind of thing. And I would say, oh my God. And that would be like, how dreadful, what a punishment for children who really need to be in the outdoors, at least when they're young, running around and just being wild, chasing each other, climbing trees, jumping off branches, and just being their wild self, which they can do when they're young. They can't do all this when they're older. Once they're 15, they can't do this. So that was one way of doing it. And the other thing, there was a whole lot of songs. Netra's talking about environment songs. I taught environment songs to them with different messages on how to cross a road, how to walk with your friends when you're crossing a road, and being careful of the traffic. What do you look first? Left, then right, then left? Or do you look right and left and right? Those are the things that we taught these children. And I was the one who taught them most of these kind of songs. That's where I learned that these kids don't know. And then I started these camps. That's why I started them. Yep. So these are the things that you can do as principals and teachers. Start when they're 2 years of age. Just take them outdoors for 1 hour, once a week, twice a week, from the classroom. Make them explore. You will explore insects. You will look for birds. This group will look for something in the soil. Put it together. sit together and say, what did you see? What did you see? Oh, you saw that. Wow, fantastic. And then give them a good clap and say, yeah, now we'll make a badge for you. And so you put a paper badge or a cardboard piece of thing and stick it on their shirt for one day. It's like that. Oh, they got the prize for the birds, or they got the prize for the insects, that kind of thing. Then when they're 3 years of age, you take them out for 3 hours at a time, all together 3 hours. So they carry the water bottle, they have to take their cap with them, and they go into their own school ground. Let them just go there and try out something there. Then when they're 4 years of age and 5 years and 6 years, give them a little garden space there to make into a garden. Let them make let them grow their vegetable seeds, get the seeds. You can talk about different seeds for them, how they grow. Where do they grow? Do they all grow in the same kind of soil? Some seeds need lots of water, some need very little water. So, do they grow in the same areas? And then you're talking about geography and so many other things, nature around you, plus the geography that they need to know. Eventually, they'll know it in much more detail. When they are standard 1, take them for one whole day camping out. Bring them back by the end of the day. In standard 2, they go for 2 days. In standard 3, they go for 3 days. And in standard 4 upwards, they go for 4. That's what I used to talk about. And I actually suggested this to NCERT long, long ago in the 90s when we first started. And I said, this doesn't exist. Why don't you just add this in? So instead they put environment education as part of the education system. But everything is written and everything is all rote, and it's all syllabus. But everything is not syllabus, unfortunately. There are some things the teachers have to teach which are outside the syllabus, and a lot of fun. And I'll tell you another thing. What happens is when kids are in a camp and you have a feedback system afterwards, you get that feedback form filled by the children later on. And you can see in 1 week or 2 weeks from the time of camp, you find out, what did you learn? What did you see? What was your opinion? Do you think it was worth it? Do you think it was not worth it? And you send that back to the people who are doing the education. That is their motivation for the teachers.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leelaji. Yes, we are going to late now. So if you have any questions, please share on WhatsApp group. We already shared group link on chat. And Leelaji, thank you so much sharing about your experience as an educator, environment educator, and how we have to work with children, what we have to teach, and what we are doing right now. And about outdoor, yeah, really, it's really important to children understand about what we are doing, and how why we are scary about animals, and really it's really very sensible issues. And yeah, we are missing in our education system. And thank you so much for addressing these all issues.
Not at all.
Event.
Not at all. You're welcome.
And I would like to say something, that it was very injustice to read only one page of the story. Now I want to know more about Rangappa and Atiya. So I think I have to buy the book and then read it.
Just go to Amazon and you'll find all the 4 books there. And they're well worth a read. I know that a lot of people are finding this one. I'll hold it up for you.
Okay.
It's backwards, but anyway, it's Flute in the Forest. That's the one I read.
Flute in the Forest.
But there's Red Kite Adventure. In fact, I've sent you the list so you can put it onto the screen for the teachers and they can see that. But it's all available on Amazon and all freely possible. So you can buy them from there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leelaji.
No, not at all. And I would love to have reviews from you, from your children. You can make it as a prize for children who've done something good in the environment, one of your projects. Choose those kind of books to give them to read so that you're doing something both. You're giving them environment and encouragement, plus you're also teaching them, encouraging them to read more. Unfortunately, they're all in English. If there was somebody who could translate it into Hindi, I would be thrilled. But who is there?
Please share with us. We will do our best.
We can get it done.
Yeah. Okay. Leelaji, you shared some activities for children. Can I share a screen?
A
Would you like
screen.
to?
Yeah, sure. I've
okay?
given you that, no?
Yeah. I think it's visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Activities. So you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, you can just explain in one.
Okay. There's a game that CEE has been playing with the children about the balance in nature. If nature is left to itself, all animals, there will always be a balance. When there's an over population of deer, there will never be enough food for them, and so the next year they will not produce that many young. Some will die out, some will get eaten up, and so the population of deer will come back to base again. So that game is very interesting for children to play. The other thing is, because it's active, it's an active game, running around and picking up this and doing that, and that kind of thing. So these are all active games. Then there's a second game that I've written, making nature pictures with natural materials around the playground. So here, what we used to do was, you draw an outline on the mud, on the ground, on the soil, in your school, in the playground itself, when there's nobody else around, and divide them into groups of 6 or 7, and tell them, okay, this is group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Group 1, group 2, each of you will go as a group to pick up only things which are on the ground or dead branches or dead leaves. Do not pick up anything, and don't break anything from the bushes or the trees or the stalks of things which are growing, because then you're killing something. You want only the dry things. You give them 10 minutes for this, then you collect them together and you ask them to make a picture in that frame, the frame of 2 by 2, which you have drawn on the ground. So team 1 will have the first frame, team 2 will have the second frame, team 3 will have the third frame, and then you let them speak about it. So now they're learning to work as a team. They're learning to draw imagination and pictures from nature around them. And 3, you're giving them the chance to be, one of them or 2 of them, to speak freely about what they have done, so that you're encouraging them to be confident when they speak and when they're explaining something. It's a three-pronged lesson. In the third one, imaginary animals, here we give them paper. Each group got a paper, and the group had to draw 1 or 2 imaginary animals, completely from imagination. I mean, you don't have animals like that. So an animal which can be, it can have horns, but it can also have feathers, and it can have flippers. And then when they've drawn the whole thing, they also have to explain. These pictures are put on a screen, then they have to explain to the whole team, whole group that's there waiting, where this animal lives, what it eats, what it survives on, and where is why has it got the horns, and why does it have those flippers and all this kind of thing. So think about that. So if you choose an animal which has flippers, obviously it can't live in the desert. It must live somewhere near water. So these kind of logical solutions to why an animal has fur or feathers or horns or tail or tusks exists, and they are thinking for themselves before they draw their animal. And it's a really good lesson for them to know. And it's also full of fun, because some of them draw really wild things, absolutely wild, and it can really be a great, lots of humor and lots of fun in this. The fourth game, Web of Life, is very complicated. It's not easy. It takes a long time. You have placards. If you have a class of, say, 30 children, you must have 30 boards. and each board is one specific subject from nature. For instance, whale, shark, a fish, a crab, water, air, soil, elephants. So you choose some mammals, some birds, some fish, some reptiles, this kind of thing. But you also choose air, water, trees, soil, pebbles, stones, and things which they might think are useless. Yeah, we don't need this. Then you give each of them a board and they put it around their neck. It's got a little string and the name is on the board. So it says very clearly, you are a whale, this one is a shark, that one is a stone. And then you have a big roll of string, big roll. Now you start with the first one. You can start with the first one and say, okay, we'll start with the whale. Now ask the whale, what do you need to survive on this planet? Do you need a desert or do you need water or what do you need? So they will choose. Obviously, the whale will choose something like fish that it can eat or water or sea water. And so the string, one string, the first part of the string will be tied to the first person, the whale, and he keeps holding that string right through the game. And then it is attached to water because he chose water. Then water will tie it on his finger, and then it will go on from water to something that he likes or that likes him or needs him. For instance, a water bird. So you choose a water bird, and then eventually you have like a web. The string is going from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And then the web is lifted up. Each of them hold their string, their finger up, say about 2 feet from the ground. They're sitting on the ground and 2 feet from the ground. And so then they can actually see this web in front of them. And when they see this web, then you explain, we all need each other. We all require each other. We cannot do without this or that. Supposing I'm a horrible corporator or a very corrupt politician, I don't need any of this water from this river. Chuck out the river. Forget it. So we'll just, doesn't matter if it gets polluted. Okay, so kill it. So then the river puts his string down from his finger. Then somebody else says, I think the river says, if I'm gone, then who will survive in the river? The fish can't survive. The whale, because the whale will have less water in the sea and it'll be all filthy, polluted water, so he might die. The fish might die. And they, one by one, they let their strings go. So in the end, there's no web of life. And that proves to you that in nature, everything needs each other. Everything needs something else. And we are part of that nature. So we need all of these things. And if we let one thing go, one by one, everything will go. It's a really very good game.
Yeah, very interesting activities, Leelaji.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all these activities with us.
No, not at all. So, that's it, or you want more?
Yeah. So we are going to share all these activities with all the educators here in the chat box, right, Kamakshi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are the 4 books written by Leelaji. You can find the names in the chat box, those who wanted the names of the books. And all the books are available on Amazon. You can buy from Amazon.
It's Flute in the Forest.
Yeah, it's flute. Yeah.
Flute, yeah.
Great. It was a very nice concept of ecology, food chains and food webs and the ecosystem. Beautifully, if the biology teacher plays this game, then she doesn't have to, spend 3 periods to explain it. It is, I think, an hour's job and the whole class will learn it so beautifully. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. वैसे हमारा सेशन 6:30 को ही क्लोज हो जाता है, पर सेशन और टॉपिक इतना इंटरेस्टिंग है, स्पीकर इतना अच्छे से समझा रहे हैं, तो 6:45 कैसे हो गया समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. But it was a wonderful session. And so, as we close our sessions with silence, so can we all please close our eyes and do silence for just 1 minute? Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you have many takeaways from this session, and you go and do these wonderful activities with children, and you share with other educators also. Uh, we want to hear in the next week if you have done so. So we want to know the experience because the activities are so interesting. We would love to know how was your experience while doing all this.